It's still a sports palooza going on during this fall season as professional and collegiate sports are heating up. After a long season, an NBA Finals champion has finally been crowned. The Diamond has seen a historic postseason inning while teams continue to battle in the American and National League Championship Series. In the NFL, a local team are showing just how dysfunctional they might be with a lot of recent changes. NHL teams have selected who could be future stars in the league, and Seton Hall basketball schedule is slowly shaping up with less than 6 weeks until the start of the season. Me and my wonderful panel will break down all of this and more in this episode. Going back to our roots and more, we're talking the best of the best here. This is Hall Pro. Welcome back to Hall Pro. My name is Wilnir Louis, and I'm here alongside my lovely panel of Dylan Camp and Ryan Clayton. Guys, before we even get into the sports stuff, how are you today?
You know, we're pretty busy. It's midterm season, but other than that, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just about as well as I can with everything considered. But honestly, feels good to be back on the show.
And I'm glad to be here hosting, fielding these questions to you too. So first and foremost, let's start with the NBA Finals. The Los Angeles Lakers were awarded the champions after a hard-fought series with the Miami Heat. They won their last matchup 106-93. And Game 6, I mean, the Lakers had came out with a mission in that game. They led by as much as 30 points in that game. So before we even get to the champions, I just want to know your guys' reaction to Game 6. Dylan, we'll start with you.
You know, I was very underwhelmed by Jimmy Buckets. Why? He scored 12 points. In an elimination game where your team's on the brink of getting to Game 7 in the NBA Finals, I was very underwhelmed. You know, he had some scoring outbursts in that series. He had the 2 big games. But in a Game 6 where you're being almost eliminated, I would expect a bigger effort from the leader of that team.
Well, personally, I was okay with Jimmy Buckets. I will say, though, I unfortunately did not catch a lot of this game. I was doing a little show called The Campus Buzz, Sundays 8 to 10, shouts out. But from what I did see, LeBron was dominant in this game. I mean, obviously had a super great game for him. Really what I noticed, though, and this was one of the keys thinking about how the Lakers were going to pull off this win, their role players really stepped up, specifically KCP and Rondo. I will say, though, talking about the Heat, I don't think they ever led in this game, so can't win a lot of games by doing that.
Yeah, again, the Lakers, they won that one wire to wire. Biggest lead in that game, 36 points, and overall, again, there was a lot of talk about Game 5 and when the Lakers were wearing the Mamba jerseys that they were going to come out victorious, but of course, the Heat had other options in that game, but then coming out in Game 6 with a mission was the Lakers, and overall, it seemed like throughout these playoffs and even throughout the season, a lot of media people were writing out the Lakers. And, of course, the organization as a whole had to deal with the tragic death of Kobe Bryant. So, overall, with the Lakers winning the championship, what's your reaction to that and just how they're able to overcome everything?
I mean, my reaction, I'm glad you mentioned it specifically, but I am so happy for Lakers fans and the Lakers organization, specifically for Kobe. That is just such a tough loss for them. Yeah, I think LA fans should be very proud. It's a crazy year. I don't think I'll ever root for an LA team like this again, but yeah, I'm very happy for them now though, with the passing of Kobe.
Yeah, I definitely think do it for Kobe was a mentality amongst that locker room. And, you know, everyone kind of expected the other LA team to be in that final spot, the Clippers. So you said, like, the media kind of wrote them off. They did, and the Lakers really showed who they are. They're the powerhouse in that city still. They just got their 17th championship, tied with the Celtics for most in the NBA. So good for the franchise. I think it would have been interesting to see if it was Celtics-Lakers. Try to see if the Celtics can kick it to banner advantage or if the Lakers could tie it up. I think that would have been a little bit more interesting. But, you know, for the most part, it was a good series, and I'm happy for the Lakers, especially this year, like Ryan said, after that tragic passing.
Yeah, and it just seemed like all throughout the playoffs, I mean, against the Rockets, against the Trailblazers, against the Nuggets, and even against the Heat, everybody just found a way to ride out the Lakers. But again, they were able to just dominate in all of those series. And a player that dominated throughout each series of course, was LeBron James, the Finals MVP, his 4th overall in his career, another one that he was able to get on his 3rd team, and it seems like a lot of people are wondering if this Finals MVP makes LeBron James the greatest of all time, if he was able to surpass Michael Jordan, or even if he was already surpassed Michael Jordan as greatest of all time. So with the Finals MVP, with this championship, Dylan, we'll start with you. Do you think that this win lets LeBron overtake Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time?
No. No, I don't at all. He's the king of this generation, no doubt about it, but he's still not the GOAT. I mean, honestly, Michael Jordan never lost an NBA Finals, 6-0. He was Finals MVP every time. And MJ only played 15 seasons, got 6 rings. LeBron's on 17, only got 4. I mean, they may be tied by the end, but Michael Jordan's probably going to play 5 less seasons. I still think MJ's the GOAT. Maybe if LeBron gets 6, at someday we can consider him in that realm. But as of right now, I still think MJ's got it.
Oh, man, real quick. I was going to give a cop-out answer, but after you said that, I think we can start having that conversation of LeBron being the greatest with this. I will say, I would rather take LeBron making it to, 10 finals now over Jordan's perfect record. So at the very least, I think we can have the conversation that LeBron is better. I'm ready to listen to it.
Listen, Dylan, you brought up how Jordan just wins in the finals, but we don't talk about how Jordan loses in the playoffs. Meanwhile, LeBron, he gets into the playoffs and at least makes it all the way to the finals. So, Dylan, it looks like you want to quickly comment on that, so go ahead.
I think LeBron created the super team. He had to go out and seek Bosh and Wade to win his first chip. He recruited AD to get this one. Jordan and the Bulls kind of more of the homegrown talent, the way that I like to see a franchise built, opposed to superstars seeking each other out to get that. So I'll say my piece with that, and we'll talk about this another day.
Listen, we definitely do. We could talk about this throughout the whole show, but there is a lot of sports that has been going on in this fall season. And let's move to another playoff series, the MLB in their championship series. To start off on the NLCS, the Dodgers seemed like they were just stagnant throughout the series, losing their first 2 games. But in Game 3, getting a postseason record for runs in an inning in that first inning, getting 11 runs across the plate. And do you think that that's the spark that the Dodgers needed to really right their ship in this series and potentially come home victorious?
That was a crazy inning. An 11-run first inning is going to put any team to bed, no doubt about it. And with Kershaw back on the hill Thursday night, I think it may be about time this series swings the other way. Kershaw has never lost to the Braves in 14 starts. I don't expect it to start now. I think the series is going to be tied 2-2. And after that big win in Game 3, I can see the Dodgers swinging this in their momentum. The only reason they were really not leading this series was because the 9th inning of Game 1, where their reliever kind of blew up, gave up 4 runs, and lost that game. This series has been close for most of it, and I expect the Dodgers to take the lead now.
Yeah, talking about is this enough? If this isn't, I don't know what is. But yeah, it certainly is a step in the right direction. That was such dominant baseball that we saw. So I think it is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, again, the Dodgers winning that matchup 15-3 in Game 3, and this was the Dodgers that everybody wanted to see. It seemed like they were the favorites to come out of the National Conference, and there was a National League, and they were the favorites because of their hitting, because of their pitching. But in those 2 games, very stagnant. But in Game 3, that was the Dodgers that everybody in the major leagues wanted to see. And the team that people in the major leagues possibly didn't want to see in this position was the Houston Astros. There was a lot of talk about this season and about, basically them cheating to get their World Series. But they're in the ALCS, and they were looking a little dead out of the waters. They were avoiding the sweep by coming home victorious in Game 4. So, as much as flack as the Astros got throughout the season, they were able to make it this far. So do you think that the Astros could possibly swing the tide and force it to a Game 7 or even come away victorious in that series?
Yeah, I'm not sold on this. I personally think that it is done for the Astros. I think maybe they can pick up another game, but I'm doubtful about that. I really think the Rays have just been proving how complete of a team they are. They are just very, very dominant. Their bats are there. Defensively, they have been stepping up and making great plays. So I don't think the Astros win another game, personally.
You know, I'm torn. It seems like both teams are kind of going to be throwing a bullpen game in the Thursday night game. The opener role, if you will, for the Braves is John Curtis, and the Astros are throwing a rookie that's never pitched in the playoffs. So it seems like either of those guys isn't going to go very deep, and then you're going to have a lot of bullpen length that you need to rely on. And when it comes to that, I think Tampa Bay's got the advantage. So I can definitely see it being wrapped up tonight. I'm more of the starter, like bullpen kind of traditionalist, and I think the bullpen games scare me a little bit, so I can see it going either way. But I think Tampa Bay's got the advantage. I could see him closing out in 5. Like Ryan said, maybe 6, but Tampa Bay's probably got it.
Yeah, at the time of recording, I mean, both teams are in action tonight, so the Rays have a potential to close out the series and make it to the World Series. But let's go from the diamond to the gridiron and talk about the NFL. And let's stick a little local because the New York Jets just find their way to get into the news for negative reasons once again. Le'Veon Bell got cut by the New York Jets after liking comments from the media members saying that he was being misused after the Cardinals game that the Jets lost 30-10 in. And just overall, I mean, Dylan, let's start with you because I know you have a lot of built-up energy about this one. What is wrong with the New York Jets?
Nobody likes Adam Gase. My gosh, this man, I feel so bad for Joe Douglas. And I know they're friends, so it kind of seems like Gase got Douglas that job, and now he kind of has some debt to pay. But Douglas is having to get rid of every good player on that team to make Adam Gase feel better because no one likes him. No one thinks he's a good leader. You know, a couple years ago back in Pittsburgh when Le'Veon Bell and AB were there, Mike Tomlin said, we want volunteers, not hostages. And it seems like every Jet now, at least all the good ones, are hostage in that situation. They don't want to be there. They can't stand the coach. And Joe Douglas has to get rid of them to try and save whatever team chemistry might be in that locker room. I mean, it's brutal. We're going to talk about Gase getting fired. I don't know how he's still there, but it's been rough.
Yeah, I think when talking about the Jets, it is very clear they don't have a direction. Or if they do, I'll say it like this. They are putting all of their eggs in all the wrong baskets. I think you just need a clean slate for the Jets, either, you know, firing Gase, getting rid of whatever organizational people and stuff, but they need to start doing something different if they want to start winning games.
And I remember when Adam Gase, got hired, they were saying he was the quarterback guru. He was going to make Sam Darnold a great prospect, and we don't even know what's happening with Sam Darnold now. We don't know what's happening with the New York Jets organization, and there's been a lot of talks of Adam Gase being fired. So, Dylan, to start with you, should Adam Gase get fired, and if he should, when should the firing happen?
Well, I mean, talking about the Sam Darnold point, last year when Sam Darnold started, they were 7-6. So there was hope for that organization. And the transition from last year to this year is astounding. When should Adam Gase have been fired? Like 2 weeks ago? After the Thursday Night Football loss to the Broncos, when you go 0-2, you got a long week, you got 9 days off, bring in a new coach, try and figure something else. Adam Gase should have been out the door. I think if they lose to Miami this week, go 0-6, he might get fired. And then after that, I think his next possible firing would probably be the bye week, which is week 10 for the Jets. If he lasts the whole season, I'll be absolutely flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted, yeah. Should he be fired? Yes. Are they going to? I don't know at this point. Something about him, I mean, there's so many different things. You brought up all those losses. Thursday Night Football, the Broncos, and playing the Broncos. I don't know what it's going to take for him to get fired. I really don't know. I brought it up in the question before when I was talking about. Like, I don't know what it is going to take for him to get fired at this point. We'll wait and see, I guess.
I mean, Adam Gase should have got fired. Like you said, after that Broncos loss, when the Broncos are really playing with their replacement players, and they were still able to find a way to come out victorious against the Jets, I mean, he should have got fired there. And we saw the Atlanta Falcons, a team that has really struggled in the start of the season, clean up house in their organization. And to transition to our next point, you know, at this quarter point in the NFL season, we have seen a lot of teams that had high expectations but are not succeeding them, or had low expectations and are extremely blowing those out of the water. So, Ryan, to start with you, you know, one team that you think is doing well and that surprised you, and one team that is doing worse than you thought.
Yeah, I think the surprise for me and many other fans has been the production out of Cleveland. I mean, it's been so awesome to see Cleveland succeeding. I think for my biggest surprise, funny enough, you brought up the Atlanta Falcons. I didn't have super high expectations for them, but there is clearly some problems there. I mean, offensively, it doesn't look like they're able to produce anything. And if the offense wasn't bad enough, the defense is even worse. So Atlanta has definitely been disappointing for me this season.
I think the biggest surprise for me in the positive sense has been the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, you look at their schedule, and you see maybe one win on there through the first 5 weeks in the Panthers, but then they played the Saints, Patriots, Bills, and Chiefs. And the fact that they're 3-2, I'm kind of very, very surprised, to be honest. They opened that stadium with a win against Drew Brees and the Saints. That was pretty cool. They just beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs last weekend. So I've been pleasantly surprised by the Raiders so far. They're 3-2, which, isn't leading the pack, but I think it's better than when you look at what the schedule they could have been for sure.
Yeah, I think for a team, for me, the team that surprised me, honestly, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I knew they were going to be good, but this great, that honestly surprised me. And the team that I guess kind of upset me a little bit, the Denver Broncos, they dealt with a lot of injuries, but I thought, with the draft that they had, that they were going to be a pretty successful team. So the transition from one physical sport to another one, the NHL Draft happened about a week and a half ago, and all the New York teams were able to get a lot of action there. The Rangers had the first pick, and they were able to get Alexis Lafreniere. And then going off that, the Devils were able to get Alexander Holtz, Dawson Mercer. So overall, just to kind of rank these New York teams and New Jersey teams as well, start with the Islanders, then go Rangers, then go Devils. Dylan, we'll start with you.
The Islanders, it's really hard to grade their draft because they didn't start till the third round. The Islanders have kind of put a lot of their chips on the table for right now, and obviously they got pretty close to that working. So it's hard to judge a draft where you're not going to see these players for a couple of years. The Rangers, obviously, it's hard to not give them an A. They had Alexis Lafreniere with the first overall pick. I think they know the Devils pretty well, know the Devils kind of needed a D, and it was pretty funny to watch them jump in between two Devils picks at the late first round to get Braden Schneider. I was pretty happy with the Devils draft, being a Devils fan myself. Alex Holtz, I can see being a top 6 forward pretty soon. The line used to be Hall, Heischer-Bratt. I can see it being Holtz, Heischer-Bratt now. Dawson Mercer may see NHL time, probably unlikely this year, and I think Shakir Mukhamadullin probably going to go back to Russia, get a little bit bigger. He's kind of a small defenseman, put on a little weight, come back, and I can see him being a big difference maker next year. But overall, I think they all had pretty good drafts. The Islanders, it's hard to tell, but the other two did very well.
Yeah, bringing up very good points, and I generally agree with all of them. Let's start with the Islanders, and especially for those later rounds right now for this team, I don't know how much their picks matter. Of course, every pick matters and stuff, and you could get your next star in the draft, but I think just where they were drafting from and who they picked up, I don't think, like you said, I don't think we're going to be seeing them immediately contribute. Rangers up next, I mean, obviously they had, I liked them trading up. The first pick, very obvious, liked that pick a lot. I liked the Raiders. I liked the Rangers trading up. We're talking hockey now. And then for the Devils, I think they got really good value from Mercer. Personally, coming into this draft, I didn't know if he was going to be there, and I really, really like that pick.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how these young stars, transition from where they're from up until, the NHL. But with the show wrapping up a little bit, we do have some time to talk about some Seton Hall sports. And, it's great to see some news starting to come out with the basketball season being, a little under 6 weeks away. And Seton Hall is slowly but surely getting their non-conference schedule going. So originally they were going to play in the Charleston Classic, but are now playing in the Wooden Legacy with UCLA, Kansas, and Boise State. And then they'll also be playing the University of Rhode Island at Rhode Island, as well as Baylor still be played at home. And they're still looking for potential matchups with Penn State, with Rutgers to still happen. So overall, again, first and foremost, the tournament change for Seton Hall from the Charleston Classic to the Wooden Legacy. A lot of teams were dropping out of the Charleston Classic, but there was still a lot of good teams in that field. So just your reaction to Seton Hall changing their tournament.
I was a little surprised by it, but I think it's a good move. Seton Hall always plays a pretty tough non-conference. We're going to get into that more so, but I think these tournaments, Thanksgiving weekend, are definitely a big part of that. And I think Willard and the program changing was a good decision. They're going to play Kansas, who last year finished at the #1 spot, so that's going to be a great competition. So where you can see your guys really put their heart and soul into that game, try and get a win, see what happens. I think it's overall switching the tournaments is probably good, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but once these other teams started dropping out, it was definitely not too much of a surprise.
Yeah, I personally love the move. I thought that was that's such a big play, which we have been seeing from Willard. And I think this is such a good start to the season because, with past teams, like having success in these tournaments, I mean, I think that just shows if they can have success, pick up some games, it shows that they can hang with the big dogs. Teams, and yeah, that's what I would say. If they can have success early on, that certainly puts this Seton Hall team right on the map.
Yeah, and Seton Hall, for the past couple of years have been doing absolutely well with their non-conference schedule. Now, I do want to talk about Seton Hall a little bit more, but we did get some breaking news as we were taping this show. So, Le'Veon Bell, the former Jets, has officially signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. A loaded offensive team for the Kansas City Chiefs, now getting a proven running back in their backfield. So, Dylan, your reaction to that signing?
I think it's probably going to be really good for him. It seems like he hasn't been too happy with the past two organizations he's been a part of. And I think this is one that obviously has that championship pedigree, winning last year. I think he's going to be able to mentor Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit. So I think it's a good fit. I'm very curious to see how long the contract is. It's probably only the rest of this season, but I think it's good for Bell. Maybe they'll push in the playoffs again, and maybe he'll get a ring finally.
Yeah, I got to be satisfied with this, especially for Bell. I think that's a perfect spot for him to land. You talked about it, that offense is just so dynamic. Yeah, I can't say. I guess we'll have to see. I don't know if you guys would know more, but would he be allowed to play this week? How does that trade stuff work? Do we know?
He probably won't, I don't think, but I think they play the Jets next weekend, if I'm not mistaken, so that should be pretty interesting. I would expect for Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid to try and get Mahomes a lot of touches, to get Bell a lot of touches against the Jets with Mahomes and try and really light him up in honor of Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Le'Veon Bell is probably going to have to go through some COVID protocols, so this upcoming game he's probably not going to be able to play in, but just overall, the signing for the Chiefs, I mean, again, you talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and how he's been able to show himself as a rookie, but now Le'Veon Bell being able to come in there and being able to mentor him a little bit. Kansas City was already a scary team, and it's going to be scary to see what they do now if Le'Veon Bell could prove himself to be that running back that he was with the Steelers. But unfortunately, that's all the time that we have here on Hall Pro. I want to thank my panel of Dylan Camp and Ryan Clayton for being here, being as awesome as always. The people all behind the scenes, whether it's the cameras, the switches, the directors, all of them, they're doing a wonderful job up there. Check out our other episodes and make sure to stay safe, wear a mask, and have fun.